back to the Releasing Pressure podcast. As always, I'm your host, Antoine Johnson. And this time, we're starting off with a guest here with us. Actually, I'm really honored that you were able to make it. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Hi, my name is Terry Seay, and I'm a program manager for the Buffalo Fatherhood Initiative, a program under Buffalo Prenatal Perinatal Network.
Yes, sir. Why don't we start off by just talking a little bit more about you as Terry the man. I before we came here today, I was thinking about the conversations that we would have when we were traveling. We'd be going to and from conferences and stuff like that, and yeah, man, I really cherish those moments now that I'm not with the agency anymore because that element is, I don't say gone entirely, but it's not, things are different. Things are obviously different. So let's talk a little bit more about like the origin of Terry. The origin of Terry. When I say that, like what was family life like for you growing up, and how have like some of those pivotal moments shaped you to be the man that you are now, who I really admire.
Yeah. Well, Terry has come a long way. Terry was the oldest of 11 children born here in Buffalo, a Christian, God fearing mother, and a father who was a provider and a protector. But he had his issues also. Maybe he felt the pressures of being a father
Mm-hmm.
of a family that size. As a result, there was times when we didn't feel safe or secure because he was violent toward mom, and as a child, you feel helpless and confused and insecure, you know. But those were, those times compared to all the good times is something how they still stand out. But dad, mentored and taught us how to be, a good work ethic,
Mm-hmm.
how to be that man in the house, that leader. Um, but Terry, when he went on to start his own family, I wasn't quite ready.
Mm-hmm.
As a result, I joined the military to get some discipline. Their mother encouraged me to do that. Um, and that didn't work, even after a bunch of years, because when I came out, I still wasn't, something was missing. I was married, I had a different family, but something was missing. And, I turned to a life of drug use. Um, and once I got to the point that I couldn't take it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
I started what, you know, a whole new life. A life of, believing in a power greater than myself that didn't have to be my mother's,
Yeah.
but I just, same God, just looking at him and interacting with him differently.
Yeah.
And, as life went on, it's been a learning process. And where I'm at today, I feel is I'm the best man that I've ever been. It took a long time,
Yeah.
but um, it's you know using my experiences, those failures, those bad decisions, and turning them around and doing something different. And that's where I'm at today. With family, with work, you know, um, doing things different, which equates into hopefully the right way.
So let's talk a little bit about how your past connects to your future in terms of how you go about life today, because you said something that resonated with me or stood out to me in terms of being like feeling like you're like the better version of yourself today than ever before. That's what it kind of sounded like. And so, can you talk a little bit about how your past and like some of the things that you had to go through? The quote I'm looking at right now. It says, "How we view pain depends on how we view life. How we view pain depends on how we view life." And it sounds like you've had some moments in your life where like there was some pain and so forth. And so, how is like that, some of the pain, some of the things that you've gone through help to aid where you are today?
Yeah. Well, like I said, learning by my mistakes and those bad decisions, um, motivated me to become more self-aware of who I am, how I think, how I view life, how I interact with others. I had to really go deep to understand me a lot better than I did. Um, and by doing so, I was able to identify the areas that was causing me the most harm.
Yeah.
And then I put forth the effort to change them around, eradicate them, and put my best foot forward. Um, uh, but whatever I went through in my life, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all been used to help, me to get to where I'm at.
Yeah. And part of that, you've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of guys in the city of Buffalo. I hear time and time again how men talk about how instrumental you are in the lives of their family. I remember this had to be about 3 to 4 years, at least 4 years ago. We were at a school, and there was a gentleman who, big guy, did some time in jail.
Mhm.
He had to be like late 30s, early 40s, probably more early 40s, and it really doesn't matter. But like you guys did this exercise in your fatherhood program that compel him, or not compel him. You were doing an exercise where like you were acting like his father, right? Like you had. Can you walk us through that a
Yeah,
little bit, because
yeah,
you'll
yeah.
probably tell a lot better than I will.
His father, we did this exercise. He had asked a question about how would you go about addressing a dad who wasn't in your life. I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll be the dad, and let's have a conversation. And we had the conversation, and I listened to him, and he had a lot to say, and he was angry, and you know, it was something to, you know, really behold. But I'm tell you, when we left there that night, and he was walking in the parking lot, I was afraid. I thought he might try to jump on me, but he thanked me. He said, "Thank you for that." And he allowed himself. He didn't want to be touched,
Yeah, I remember.
but as time went on, he allowed himself to be hugged.
Yeah, I remember that. And he gave one of the biggest hugs too,
Yeah.
toward the end. Talk about releasing pressure, So one of the reasons why this platform is so important to me is because I know that the experience that I had with my father, I had a lot of pent up aggression and hurt and pain, and I didn't know how to let that go until I went through a fatherhood program
Mm.
similar to the one that you all run now. And I remember there being a just a point in time where I was able to name some of those feelings, like I'm feeling abandoned or I'm feeling hurt, all this stuff I would never admit. And that was the season of my life that I was free. The Lord allowed me to be freed from feeling like I needed to um, be this um, I don't know what you would call it, this pretend man or something, like I was putting on this facade, right? Like just like you said, a gentleman hugged, was able to hug, and he felt a lot more free to do that. I now feel a lot more free to be expressive emotionally, whether it be with my kids or even other men in the community, right? I think differently about the way I look at other men in terms of like I don't see them as a threat
Mhm.
necessarily, right? So whatever that the point is that through your work, you all have impacted the lives of so many people, and there are many men who look to you as a father figure and like their superhero, which is really cool because I remember
Mm.
6 7 years ago, you wasn't too crazy about or think that you necessarily needed to be in this particular space, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's been a journey. Uh, I think this caseworker from the agency, our family was clients, and she said they having this fatherhood class. I think you're gonna be a help to them. I think you should go. So she asked me a couple of weeks later. I said, okay, I'll go. Where is it? So reluctantly, I showed up.
Yeah,
It sounded interesting, and I'm waiting about how I'm gonna help them.
yeah,
And as I sat there and came back and sat there and listened, I realized I'm the one who needed some help
yeah,
because I was I had a lot of my way of fathering was the way my father fathered me. You do something wrong, you get your butt whooped. Okay? And at the time, I was a father figure to three children who were not mine in the household.
talk about pressure.
Yeah, well, they wasn't bad except for one. And that one, whatever was going on with him, he was very disrespectful to his mother.
Mhm.
And that's something that you don't do.
Let's talk about that for a minute before you go further into the story, because I think that now more than ever before, there are so many blended families and, guys who may be where you were.
Hmm.
And so, how did you work through the dynamics of those relationships, being in this house with a woman that you really loved and cared about, but also understanding that they were all a package deal and that you were going to also have to be a part of her children's lives for better or worse. And so how did you work through like when that, her one son didn't necessarily have the best feelings about you?
Yeah, well, yes, how I worked through. We'll talk about how I worked through instead of about how I addressed it a couple of times, which is why I needed the program, the fatherhood program. But I come from a large family, so it's instilled in me to be around family,
Mm,
and they became my family.
mm,
Except for that intervention with that young man or that boy at the time. Um, everything. It wasn't a lot of pressure. Um, when we got together at the birth of my son, after the birth of our son, when we got together, I held on to my own apartment for a whole year
yeah, I remember you telling me.
before I got on the lease with her because we had a rocky relationship leading up to her having the child.
Mm,
And I had to work, there was distrust on my part. Um, but things we worked as a team. Um, I gave her time to take care of our son because he's special needs.
yeah,
And I said I would take care of the children.
yeah.
So I would cook meals for them.
Mm,
I would help them with their homework.
mm,
I would, be there for them. I would try to correct them when they were doing something wrong to take the pressure off of her. And as time went on, we just became a normalized family unit. Even though they had a father in their life, their father wasn't in their life. They had a father, but he wasn't in their life.
yeah, I remember you telling me that.
And when he passed last year,
Oh, I didn't know that he passed.
yeah, yeah, and I had to tell them that because my brother knew him, and my brother informed me, and I, talked to them. I was there for them. Seem to have handled it. They seem to handle it very well at the time.
Mm.
Um, Except one son had got a lot of anger about the fact that his father wasn't in his life.
Wasn't in his life. Yeah.
You know, but you know, being there for them, and I'm glad that I was.
Yeah.
Um, I think helped them. You know.
Yeah. They had somebody else to kind of help fill that gap. Let's put a pin in here for a minute because you said a lot, and again, the whole premise of this platform is because there is this understanding that men now, versus ever before, unlike ever before, are faced with so many different pressures and
Hmm.
responsibilities when we think about not only being a breadwinner but also being the one who's emotionally in tuned and involved in the life of his family, and being able to pick up a lot more of those domestic tasks where maybe they weren't as expected to 40, 50 years prior, and all these other responsibilities. And you add on having a full-time job, and if you're an entrepreneur or that, like, there's
Hmm.
just so many different things that we're faced with. And I'm not taking anything away from the ladies out there, especially the single mothers, because I had a single mother, and I understand what that's like. But you talked about how you picked up the slack when it came to like the cooking, the cleaning,
Hmm.
handling. So you didn't say this, but I know like the administrative stuff for the family, the
Right.
healthcare stuff, your son having delayed development and having to make sure that he has all the services and supports in place that he needs so
Right.
that he can live as normally and as effective as possible. That's a lot of stress, and I don't think that some men would be able to carry the weight of that initially. I don't know if I could. I'll be completely honest with you because right now my wife is pregnant again for the
Oh,
first third time. That's right. So
congratulations.
y'all see this. This will be out. I want
Okay.
y'all know. She's pregnant. So thank you. And like she's really fatigued right now, and I got two kids, my 2 year old, 4 year old, and it's a lot going on. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to work during the day, and I'm finding myself feeling very stressed and irritated a lot
Hmm.
these days. And so, but that compared to what all you described again,
Hmm.
I think about people like you, because you carry a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to sit up here and think about how to describe it in a picture. Maybe one of those abstract pictures where you can't make sense of it, but if you keep looking,
Okay. Yeah.
something comes to your mind about the purpose of the picture.
Yeah.
That's what life seems like sometimes. Because what I told you I was doing 9 years ago,
Mm,
I'm still doing it.
yeah.
But I'm also doing it with teenagers.
Mm.
I'm still doing it. And now I was retired. I'm not retired anymore.
You done came out of
And not
retirement.
only am I'm doing a whole, it's just a lot. And, when you throw on the unexpected,
Hmm.
like say a automobile accident where your vehicle is totaled, you got
Hmm.
some, you know, bumps and bruises and
Yeah.
things like that. It could, and now you got to deal with hospitals and doctors and therapists and counselors and lawyers and, insurance companies. All that could, put a lot of pressure on a
Absolutely.
person. It puts a lot of pressure on me.
Absolutely.
And it's been a rough few weeks here recently, but what what I have to do is find time for myself.
Okay.
And most of the time that time is late at night when everybody go to bed,
Okay.
when it's quiet, you know. Um, I'm gonna tell you, me and my girl, we have not been out together by ourselves in years.
Really.
In years. Because we can't just let anybody take care of our son.
Sure.
He's got too much going on with him. Mom is so attached to him. she wants somebody watching him at all times because he has seizure disorder. And we're trying to get respite, but at his age right now we're on a waiting list.
Yeah.
But we wasn't even thinking about you know having somebody else watch him while we go out for a few hours together. Everybody going to school, including him, during the week, that would normally be okay and give us that time. But here I am working, during the day. So it's not like we doing much at all together. And in some areas, it has, you know, it's been a negative impact in our, intimacy,
I'm sure. Yeah,
you know.
I'm sure.
But we work good as a team. But this journey here, I heard you talk about how people look up to me and everything.
Mm.
You know me. You say you did a good job. I say thanks and
Yeah.
go on to
Yeah, I
the
know.
next job.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just passionate about what we do with this fatherhood program and engaging with fathers.
Mm.
Um, you know, and I'm always now I'm trying to think what more can we do, because I don't know if we have time for that story, but I was speaking at a symposium yesterday and I told a personal story
Mm.
and it relates to that departing words that I read out at the at a graduation of the Nurturing Fathers class where they talk about the invisible parent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The invisible parent being the father, whether it's by his own doing or by society or things not under his control. But I talk about being in the doctor's office, the eye doctor.
Oh, share that story. Yes.
Me and mom took our son to the eye doctor. So I'm sitting in the examination chair holding him. He's young. I don't even know if he was 2 years old. The doctor is sitting over here, and mom is way over there in the corner. And he's at his desk, and I ask him a question. And he turns his back to me and answers the question to mom. And I felt like crap. I said, how dare he? I was angry. I was, I didn't feel like I mattered. And I was really angry when I walked out of there without saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I told mom, I said, look, next time we come, if you do the same thing, we're going to have a problem. Well, 6 months later, we had an appointment for him, and we went in there, and I asked him a question. And this time he turned and faced me and answered the question.
Okay.
And I usually ask those in the audience, or in the room, what do you think was the difference? And they say, oh, you look angry. Or, maybe he learned something or read a book or, gotten enlightened. But somebody always come up with what I think the answer really was. He saw that I came back,
Okay, you're consistent.
that I was involved and engaged in the care of my child,
Yeah.
that I was going to be there, and he I wasn't invisible anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that story. I thought about that story the other day or last week. Simone had her sonogram appointment and she really wanted me to go. She really wanted me to go and I really felt compelled to go, not just because I care, but because she said when she was pregnant with Nathan that she didn't feel like I was as involved. And I'll be honest, that hurt me. That hurt my ego.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, like I can't believe I dropped the ball. I remember being really busy during that season and traveling and doing some stuff, but I didn't realize that I kind of was mentally checked out with the pregnancy. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
went to the sonogram appointment. Walked in. The receptionist was nice. Receptionist was nice. She, acknowledged both of us. Whatever. We're sitting down. We go in the room. The nurse who examined her was really nice. The doctor, the male doctor who came in, was really quick, came in, said like 5 words to her, he probably barely wanted to acknowledge her just because of his demeanor, but he didn't say nothing.
Mm.
I might as well not been in that room
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just sitting right, um, like diagonal from her or whatever, and he said nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about your story because I felt invisible, and
Mm.
I felt undervalued.
Right.
Similar to what you like. I'm like, am I like not here? I mean, and you think like if you go to Walmart or something like that, you expect people to just go about the customer
Mm-hmm.
service people because they service ain't the best sometimes. But two people are in a room
Mm-hmm.
for something as important as this, least you can do is say hi, how you doing, congratulations, even if you don't mean it, kind of thing. So yeah.
I was thinking about that on the way home from the office today, and I was thinking about it a little more deeper.
Mhm.
I was thinking about what may be the norm that they see.
Mm.
And the norm for them may be a woman with a child or a woman pregnant
Yeah.
that's by theirself,
Yeah.
or they may look at, especially with people of color,
Yeah, that's
they
what I was
may
about to
look
say.
at women as being that main person, you know, in the her life or the life of her family,
Yeah.
you know, and the man, whether this is dealing with social services or the family court system or society at the schools, the doctors, moms show up because they are moms, and the dads may have other things to do, like that providing where they at work, or unfortunately they may not be in the lives of their children,
Yeah.
you know, or they may feel that's your job to take them to do these
Take them to
things.
the point.
So as a result, they're used to seeing just the moms,
Yeah.
you know. So it's kind of like a, I don't know if it's a culture thing or how they see our culture, that may, contribute to them dismissing
Yeah. Yeah.
the
You
man when he show up.
you know what's so funny about that contrast is so we recently bought a house, right? And it's unlike ever before in a predominantly white neighborhood.
Hmm.
And it's only like 5 minutes. It's in the city of Buffalo. Some of the stuff on my mail say Buffalo. It ain't nowhere. But the street is predominantly white.
Hmm.
So many people got money, whatever. So I just felt now more than ever a lot of eyes on us, prejudice. Some folks, I nosy. If y'all watching this, you live near me, whatever. You know who you are. Anyways, so like I felt a lot of that. Um, One of the guys that I friend in the community, whether we've done some work in the community, he was like, when I bought my house on like Winslow, one of the house streets, I forget exactly. He was like, it was predominantly white, and he was like how he thought about how he felt like the outcast and stuff, but slowly but surely, like you know, there wasn't a lot of white people, and there started to be a lot more black people. Whenever like a white person was over there, they lived over there, whatever. He talked about how like black people would see them and kind of treat them different or whatever, or look at them different. And I'm like, oh, like I didn't think about the fact that we have our biases and prejudices too, when
Hmm.
it comes to people. And so the point is, based on what you shared, is that you know the way that we view people and the things that we see are different based on what we expect. Like I was joking with Jamil when I came in here, and I'm looking at his walls, and I've never really cared about walls and floors and none of this stuff before. I buy a house and I'm doing all this work now. I'm looking at stuff I never looked at before.
Hmm.
So it's just interesting how we go through life sometime and the things that we see or we don't see.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yep.
So no, this has been good. So what is one of the practices that you're putting in place right now as we kind of land a plane on this that helps you to alleviate some of the pressures? I won't say responsibilities because you always have responsibilities, but some of the pressures of stress in your life. Like what's one or two things that you're doing?
We was talking before we started here, and what I should be doing more of is getting in touch with, my higher power.
Yeah.
where my strength and guidance, you know, has come from
Amen.
during times when, you know, I I didn't know how to go about whatever it was that I had to do,
Yeah.
or I didn't even know what to do,
Yeah.
you know. Um, I hate to say, it's not an excuse, but I don't take that time. I'd be so busy. If it's not work, it's family. If it ain't family, it's business. You know, it seems like it's always something.
Yeah.
So what I do is just try to take it one thing at a time. Instead of me thinking everything has to be done right now.
Hmm.
Sometimes at the same time,
Hmm.
I have to make those choices.
Yeah.
I have to prioritize. I have to do whatever it is. And if it's something didn't get done today, hopefully there'll be a tomorrow.
Yeah.
You
That's it,
know?
and that's huge. Because I think far too often us as men, like we feel like we have to have it all done today, and if
Hmm.
it's not done today, then somehow you feel like a failure, or like you just could have. We I think we're too hard on ourselves sometimes.
Oh yes, we can, especially if you're trying to be responsible, accountable, productive.
Yeah.
You know, um, sometimes I think if retirement was good,
Yeah.
you know, but what would I have been doing all that
The
time?
Lord done called you out of retirement.
So here I am. I just wake up every day. I do thank God for another day, and I just try to put my best foot forward
Yeah.
and try not to let any pressures affect the way I relate to others, especially family, because out in the public, you good.
Yeah.
You put on your best face.
Yep. 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 I'm right
All
with you.
those, skills that you done learned over the years, you try to use,
Yeah.
but at home,
When you
when
get
you're
home.
comfortable, that's where the challenge is,
Yes, I agree.
especially when you got, you know, early teens that are learning, getting their independence.
Sure. Yeah.
You allowing them to get involved in different activities, and they're always on the go.
Yeah.
And you wonder, in football practice, they don't get home till 7:30.
Yeah.
Now do you have time to do your chores or study the books? So it's about allowing the children to have their time, their independence, but still hold them accountable for the family unit,
Yeah.
because the family unit has to come first.
Hmm.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
family unit has to come first, and then anything else you do
Come
is
second. That's
icing
right.
on the cake.
I was just talking about in the previous episode. I was watching something online with Dennis Rodman, and he was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame or whatever. And during his speech, he shared how one of his greatest um, failures. I'm paraphrasing, and whatever, it might not be saying exactly the same way, but one of his greatest failures or whatever was like his fatherhood, right? Like the way that he shows up as a father, and how that is something that he wants. And yeah, his kids are not grown. They're like teenagers like yours and so forth. So yeah, and obviously there's still time, but and I was sharing how at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many cars we didn't bought, how many houses we didn't have. This man has made millions of dollars, and he's on stage being inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame, talking about how his greatest you know regret is his the way he's shown up as a father.
Right,
You know.
right. And for me, like I said, I'm a father figure to two in the household. Then we're raising our son. But I have two other sons, in their 50s. I wasn't there for them back then, you know. Um, and we've had to, build that relationship over the years. But I was determined to be there and to go through it and to be what I needed to be for children that I believe God placed in my life, you know?
You're talking about the current one. Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
You know? So, you know, I'm stuck and stayed, and it's been rewarding. It's been a learning experience. I'm telling you, I'm so thankful I went through these father programs
Yeah, you and me both.
because I had to learn how to father differently from how my father fathered in a lot of ways, and I'm still learning.
Still learning.
I'm
Yeah.
still learning. I still sit in on the classes.
I need another
I
class.
use it as my private therapy,
Listen,
session.
Simone told me I need to go through another
Oh,
class.
she
Yeah, she
did.
said you need those fatherhood classes now more than ever. My daughter and my son and that, and we wrapping up soon. But my daughter and my son, I had them today. Simone had to go out for one of her doctors, one of her prenatal appointments, and I work from home now, so I had to come downstairs from the attic because we're staying at my in-laws now. So I'm downstairs with the kids, and my daughter just started screaming on the floor because of some snack that I didn't give her. And usually, I'm gonna tell you, I would go off on her. Get up off the floor, stop crying, all this stuff. And I just looked at her. I looked at my son. I said, "Come on, man, we go in the front room." And I just had to let her stay there. And I'll say that that was probably the best thing I could have done with her at that moment because you had been around small kids, or those of you who have small kids, you know how it is. And
Yeah.
our response as parents has probably everything to do with the situations, when it comes to our kids, especially when they're that young, because my wife would always say, "Oh, she can't emotionally regulate and all that stuff," and it's a large part of that is true. She's not like me. I'm an adult. My ability to regulate my emotions is a lot more advanced than hers, and so I have to remember sometimes that this is a 4 year old. So yeah,
Yeah, I
man.
gotta remember that this one of these teenagers has a learning disability and auditory processing disorder and ADD, and the other one got ADHD. So sometimes I forget, and I look at them as you should be, quote unquote normal,
Mm,
when actually they have some deficiencies, or disabilities that may get in the way of them responding, remembering, acting the way you would expect them to act,
yeah,
you know? Um, but y- you gotta keep that in mind,
yeah.
but how you handled that, I think, was excellent.
Oh my
And
goodness,
that
man.
gave her the choice to either stay there screaming and hollering, or get up and maybe come see what y'all was doing.
And she did that. She did that very thing. And I will say, and I said this some months back to you, but what God has allowed you to do with Kent, your son, is just been amazing because he is really a fine young man. He's very respectful every time we go out for the most part. He may play with the other kids and doing it, but like he knows his limits. Even in your absence, like he don't need a whole lot of supervision and stuff. Just always willing to help and just super respectful young man, and he really looks up to you. Like he really thinks a lot of you. And I don't say that to be disrespectful, but I just say that to say a lot of times I hear that teenagers, like, they get this attitude when they get of a certain age, and they just, I don't want to be bothered, and I don't, they may love their parents, but they don't act like it, or they don't show it. And so, but he really, respects you, and all that. And so that is a huge testament to what the Lord has allowed you to be in his life.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate him. That's my rolling partner. We've spent a lot of time together talking, me showing him how to do this or take care of this business, go to the bank machine, how to open up a bank account, how to fix things. Some of the things like what my father did,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of them keepers, that work ethic. Um, couldn't get him to save money like I thought he should, but that's on him.
That may come later. Hey, listen, we got to wrap up here. Any last minute thoughts?
No, it was good talking with you and
Yeah, yeah, same here.
seeing you. It's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
moment. Um, I just know that me, like most fathers out there, we want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
We just got to keep trying. We just got to, keep our eyes on the prize and not be invisible. We got to show up.
Show up.
We got to show up,
That's right. Even on the bad days,
even
when
on a bad day.
when maybe you yelled a couple times, maybe your relationship is rocky with your partner. Maybe you're similar to I'm in the same boat with you, Terry. Maybe you are not able to have as many intimate times with your wife, and that don't always mean sex.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Right.
just like, man, maybe you're just not always showing up the way you would like to. Keep showing up.
Yeah.
Don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. Don't step out on your partner. Right. Find ways to get the release that you need in a healthy way so that you can continue to be present until things are more ideal. Right. Because there's always going to be something coming up. So listen, thank you again for being here, Terry. For those of you out there, like, comment for sure. Like if something resonated with you, throw those comments in the chat box. And anything that we mentioned today, in terms of links and resources, we'll put them out. Definitely put some resources in there for Buffalo Prenatal and the Buffalo Fatherhood Initiative if you're local to Western New York, so that you can take advantage of some of the resources that they have to offer to you as a father, but as one of our community members, the good brother Sherman would say, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.